Hi, I'm Sean Hessinger. This is Small Biz in 15, the show where we bring you small business success in 15 minutes or less. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show. We can all name successful franchises like McDonald's and Dunkin', but would it surprise you to learn these probably aren't the opportunities potential franchise owners should be looking at these days? The franchise king, Joel Libava, tells us about the latest franchise trends and what you should be looking for in a franchise opportunity. Joel, well, let's start with the question, I guess, of if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for a business opportunity, why might you choose a franchise rather than starting a business from scratch, for example?
Most people tell me that they want to get into a franchise because they want to get into a business that's almost ready to go. There are a couple terms that some old school folks in franchising still use, which I don't like, and I've written about. One is turnkey, which suggests that all you have to do is write a check for the franchise fee, pay for the equipment, put the inventory in, and then all you have to do is turn a key and everything will be ready because the franchisor will set it up for you. It's not true. So there's a lot of work involved, but a lot of people like the idea of having a business that has a blueprint already, as opposed to starting something new, which could be a bottomless pit of just putting money in. The cool thing about franchising is you'll know up front what you're going to have to put in to get it started. And if you do really, really good homework, you'll know when break even is by talking to franchisees, et cetera. However, a lot of people, most people really are not right for franchising because a lot of people just don't like rules. They don't like the idea of following a 350-page operations manual, not being able to sell anything besides what you're supposed to be selling. So there's not a lot of creativity involved. So I'm really careful when I talk to people. When I screen them, I make sure that they're rule followers. So it's really important.
How do you decide, basically, when you're asking this question about whether you should start a business or not? We talked about why people might choose, but how do you decide whether franchising is the right option for you? What questions should you be asking yourself before you even get to the point of saying, I want to buy a franchise?
Right. Well, the first one is the rules question. Are you going to follow rules? And you need to look at your past history in your career. Were you a rule follower, or did you like making the rules? And this is something that you need to be really black and white about. If you're saying, well, I'll be happy to follow the rules as long as I like them, not so good. You just need to follow the rules because you're buying a brand. You also need to spend some time learning about the franchise business model itself, what it entails, the advantages, disadvantages. And you must say to yourself, there is some risk involved. Just because it's a franchise doesn't mean it's risk-free. You also need to do your net worth statement. You need to figure out a budget. You need to make sure you have enough money. I used to tell people you should have a minimum $300,000 net worth. I'm up in the $450,000, $500,000 range now for a net worth that you need to have. Now, that could vary a little bit if you have a spouse or a partner that is working full-time, bringing in enough income to cover your living expenses. But I like to see $450,000, $500,000 net worth with the ability to write a check for about $75,000 of your own money before you get an SBA loan or whatever loan you want to get. So budget, make sure you're going to follow the rules, realize that there is risk involved. It's not risk-free. And finally, be prepared to work harder than you've ever worked before, at the beginning at least.
Why would you look for a new franchise idea? There are these, franchises do so historically well, like the McDonald's and I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts and things. Yeah. Why would you look for a new one? Why not go with if you're going to do this? Why not go with franchises and brands that have a really established history?
Well, the first reason would be because there's no territory left in your area. There's no availability. There might be a Dunkin' Donuts that's half a mile down the road, then another one that's a mile and a half, and the area might be sold out. So that would be one reason why you may want to be open to more than going just for a brand name. The second reason is a lot of people like to be first. They want to be ground floor, first in their local community. when I was out traveling, I went to this franchise in Montana, and I know it's starting in the Northwest, but I wonder if it would work in the middle of the country or in the East, on the East Coast. People like looking at young franchise concepts because it's a way for them to get in on the ground floor. Because looking at a brand name franchise like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Burger King or McDonald's, it doesn't mean that there's availability in your area. There may not be. There may be someone that owns the entire area, your county or your zip code. So the other reason is, boy, there's nothing like having your first choice of territory. If you're looking at a young franchise concept and there's none around, you can usually have your say in what territory you'd like. And the franchisor will be a little more open that way. Matter of fact, you might even be able to get a little extra territory because you're a new franchise owner. The cool thing is that you can almost be a little bit entrepreneur-ish at the beginning because there might be only 2 or 3 franchises across the country or in the area, and the owner is still kind of figuring stuff out. So you might say, you know what, these, this coffee ground or this coffee style isn't doing really good out here. How about if we tried this one instead? The franchisor may be, very open to that. Where if you were doing that with Dunkin' Donuts, they'd say, no, this is how it is. This is the coffee you serve. Here's the 8 brands, 8 types, and that's what you do.
Speaking of new franchises, what are some, if you were just off the top of your head, some new franchise opportunities that people might not even be aware of? Or even more broadly, what are maybe some of the hottest franchise trends right now?
Well, here's a trend in one word: delivery. Whatever business you buy, whatever franchise opportunity you decide you're going to buy, make sure they deliver. Because of the pandemic, delivery was already hot because of Amazon, but now if you don't deliver the product you sell, you're pretty much lost. You must have a delivery system. So that is a trend that I've been following ever since the pandemic started, and it's really an important one. Brand-wise, there's a couple new opportunities that are pretty cool. First of all, there's one called Big Chicken. Shaquille O'Neal, the tall guy, is behind this brand, Shaq's Big Chicken. And it's just, yes, it's another chicken franchise, but it has a celebrity name behind it. And in a very smart way, the first few franchises, the first one I think was in Vegas, the second or third might have been on a cruise ship. So now you're exposing 4,000 people at the same time who have a limited choice of food to Big Chicken. So when they get on land, which sounds strange, but when they get back on land, they're exposed to it. So there's starting to be territories that are getting sold out. Very interesting brand. Also, Shaq decided to get into some sports venues. There's a newer arena in New York somewhere that he has put Big Chicken in as a vendor. So it's pretty cool. A friend of mine, Greg George, who's launched several concepts, is now involved in Peach Cobbler Factory. There's like 100 franchise agreements signed within a couple of years. That's huge. It's a dessert franchise. About 100, 110, $120,000 total investment. It's not like a 10,000 square foot operation. They started in the South, but they're starting to expand. So that's a pretty kind of a hot franchise. So both of those are obviously food franchises, which is important to know about. There's another one called Pure Green, which is actually in the healthy fast food eating phase, and they're starting to grow a little bit. So it used to be, well, most people talk about franchising, they talk about food. Well, you asked what the hot ones are. They're food related. They are. The question that I always ask people when they're looking at food, are you looking at something that could be that's going to last a long time, or are you looking at something that's going to be 2 years in and out? You don't want that. So you have to make sure it's not a fad. Buy something that is not a fad. Chicken is not a fad. Dessert is not a fad. Healthy food, it's not a fad, but is it sustainable? Are more people eating healthy? There's market research data you can do. You can go on the Small Biz Trends website. There's stuff on food that is healthy. Yeah. So look at the trends. Look at the trends.
How do you look at these new opportunities? That's what scares people about new opportunities. They think, well, McDonald's has been going on forever. All these other things have been going on forever. They seem like sure things, even if they're really hard to get. How do you look at these trends and say, that one might be a flash in the pan, and I think that one's got staying power? What are some guidelines? I mean, you mentioned a couple of things, but what are some guidelines you'd use?
One of the big ones, and this goes when looking at any franchise opportunity that you're excited about, because if you find an opportunity that you're like physically and psychologically excited about, my first thing is to take a deep breath and get the emotion out of it. Talk about the business model itself. One good source, go to the Small Business Development Center near you. They have stats, they have all sorts of data on trends, and ask them about the newer concept you're looking at. They can find out stuff that you can't because they've been doing it for a long time. You can also do it on your own. Do an online search using your favorite search engine of the type of concept it is, maybe the food it is, whatever, and trends. I mean, as simple as that. You're going to find stuff that you never even thought of. Sometimes franchises get really hot and they grow too fast. So be careful of that. Be careful of that, because that could be a flash in the pan, or it could be a home run. The toughest part about looking at a new franchise opportunity is that there's not a lot of history. If you are going to look at a more of a branded concept, like a Dunkin' Donuts or something, there are hundreds, thousands of franchisees you can talk with and ask them, how you doing? When was break even? Do you like the company? Do they support you, etc.? When you look at a young, new franchise concept, they may have 4 or 5 franchises that are up and running. It's not a lot of people to talk to. For anyone looking at a young franchise concept where there aren't many franchisees, you need to spend a few days at headquarters. See if you can really get the true vision that the CEO has about the brand and its future, and see if there's a support system in place. Do they have technology? Do they have a technology department? How is their marketing? Spend a few days at headquarters, and you could get the answer.
How do you choose the franchises that have the best profit potential?
It's tough. Well, let's say you're looking at a food franchise and you have some food industry background, which is preferable. You know what the margins are in food. You can figure it out real easy. And also the CEO, or the founder, knows what the margins are. So there are ways to find out what the margins are. You just have to be really good at asking questions.
It can be really overwhelming when you're talking about, I guess you could call it a franchise salesperson, whatever you call it. How do you make heads or tails of what they're telling you and how accurate it is and all that kind of stuff?
Be careful. Of course, any salesperson wants to make the deal, wants to sell you a franchise, but it needs to be right for you. You need to take some control of the process. You're the person with the money. You're the person that wants to buy the business. You're actually someone that wants to partner with them. So look at it as a partnership. Ask them questions. They're going to ask you questions, but try to take control of the conversation, because there's almost 4,500 franchises out there. There's a lot of choices. So if you're uncomfortable, if you think you're getting pushed hard, or if the franchise just doesn't seem like a really solid fit, move on to the next one. It's okay. In general, franchise salespeople are good people. They do want to find the right fit for their concept. Just remember, it's a transaction. Try to get the emotion out of it.
And that's it for another episode of Small Biz in 15. Thanks again to Joel Libava, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show. And please leave a comment and let us know what topics you'd like to see covered on future programs. For more small business news and tips, join us at smallbiztrends.com.